is that our shortfall is only going to be $1.2 billion instead of $1.3 billion. That's not good enough news for me. And so I think that the first thing we can do is to address the redundancies in state government. We have so many boards and commissions that overlap and do the exact same job as other ones. What we can do, and what I've proposed, is to combine the Department of Labor with the Oklahoma Employment Security Commission and the Department of Mines and save a great amount of overhead. This alone is not going to solve our budget shortfall. The department, thankfully, does not have $1 billion to be saved. But every little bit helps. Where, the old saying, $1 million here, $1 million there, you're starting to talk about real money. We need to get serious about the pennies, and after a while, the dollars will take care of themselves.
How big is the Department of Mines?
The Department of Mines is not very big, but the key is that everyone has overhead. And so when you can start combining IT departments and legal departments and secretarial pools, you're not taking away essential government services, but you are saving on overhead.
Give us a little bit of an education here. Tell us what the Department of Labor is. What do they do?
Well, the Department of Labor originally was intended to govern certain disputes between labor and management, especially things like wage hour violations. You haven't been paid for a month in your job. You have to have somewhere to go. And the thought was that we didn't want a lawsuit every single time someone didn't get paid, so we'd have an administrative system instead of a tort system for that. And so that is what I believe to be the core function of the Labor Department. But it has grown over time, as every part of state government has, to take account of inspecting amusement rides, inspecting boilers, inspecting welders and licensing welders, and administering an Environmental Protection Agency grant for asbestos abatement. So taking care of the asbestos problem that we still do have in many of our public schools. There was a school near my house just recently that they found asbestos in after all these years and had to evacuate it and send all the children to the surrounding elementary schools, which of course were already full to overflowing. These are the kind of things that we need to take a much more rational approach to. But the Labor Department, as you see, does have a very broad reach.
We had a situation here in Tulsa. We in January we found out we're going to have a $10 million shortfall in our city budget, and we had laid off 65 non-union city workers and 124 police officers. It's kind of, I don't want to go into the whole details there, but does the Labor Department have any kind of impact on that kind of stuff?
Not directly, no, and I would say that that's a good thing. I don't want somebody at 23rd and Lincoln or somebody in the building surrounding 23rd and Lincoln in Oklahoma City dictating to our towns and counties what their budgets need to be and what their relations with their workers should be. I believe in government as close to the people as possible, and so even if I were to have an opinion on something going on between a city and its workers, I don't think it's my business to interject myself in there. It's the voters.
One of the things I talked to former Senator Owen Laughlin in the earlier part of the show was the credibility and the integrity of statewide officials. I mean, we don't have a good track record here in Oklahoma.
That's right.
We have an inspector, a state inspector that was indicted. We had a guy that managed a land trust, or embezzled more than $1 million secretly because of gambling debts. And to me, we have a lot of key statewide positions, like Labor Commissioner I put in there too, that we want somebody in there we can trust.
That's right. And, I can tell you to trust me all day and night. I can tell you that I'm a good guy, but you don't really know that until someone's in office. And that's why I've made the centerpiece of my campaign open and accountable government. Because I don't want us to wait anymore for the feds to come in and find out the wrongdoing of our state government and to then slap somebody on the wrist. What I think we need to do is have a much more open and accountable process in the beginning to prevent corruption first, but secondly, to expose it as soon as possible. And the ways that I would do that are like by putting the checkbook of the Labor Department online. So if I have a friend who's a contractor and I'm steering all this government work to him and I'm getting a kickback, you're going to see the checks. You're going to see it online in real time, and that's the way we can prevent a bunch of this corruption from happening.
So more sunshine and just
More sunshine. I think it was a Supreme Court justice 100 years ago that said that sunlight is the best disinfectant. and we need some disinfectant in Oklahoma state government. So I say open up the doors.
Somebody also said that the cockroaches start running when you turn on the kitchen light.
That's right. That's right.
I don't know how that applies here, but I'm sure there's a truth in there someplace.
Now, hopefully you've cleaned the kitchen enough to where you don't need that. But.
That's right, yeah. You're listening to Tulsa Beacon Weekend. I'm your host, Charlie Biggs, publisher of the Tulsa Beacon newspaper, Tulsa's family newspaper. And if you want to see the details on the proposed $354 million tax increase for Tulsa Public Schools, a bond issue, a vote is on March 2nd. We have a report in Tulsa Beacon this week. Pick up a copy at Tulsa Area Quick Trip. Or call 523-4425, 523-4425. We will sell you a subscription. We will not sell you a prescription. Sometimes we have little old ladies call in and say, I'd like a prescription to Tulsa Beacon. And since I'm not a pharmacist, and I always like to obey all the state laws, we don't do that. And we're talking with Jason Reese, who is a conservative Republican candidate for a labor commissioner. If people, by the way, if people want to contact your campaign, how can they do so?
The best is to go on our website at www.reeseforlabor.com. That's REESE, just like the peanut butter cup. And we've got contact information on there from our toll-free number to email addresses.
You got any events coming up?
We do. As a matter of fact, I just got back from Lawton late last night, so I've been burning rubber up and down I-44 the past couple of days. But we've got a barbecue out in Lawton coming up soon. We were just at a rally in Tulsa County very recently. The Tulsa County Party was very kind to hold a rally for all the statewide candidates, and we got to speak to all of them. And you will see that across the state, especially if you go on the Republican Party's website, which is okgop.com, you will see that the Lincoln Day dinners are coming into full swing. And so we're hitting a lot of those. I just went to one in Stillwater last week, and we've got Muskogee coming up soon, and then Oklahoma City and on.
So you're talking to a lot of people. You're crisscrossing the state. What are you hearing from people?
What I'm hearing from people is that they are really sick and tired of the incumbent mentality that we have in government right now, that there's an entitlement that I've been in office, I get to stay in office. And so one of the things that I've said in response to that, and that I've heard echoes from immensely, is that we need to put the same kind of term limits on these secondary statewide offices like labor commissioner that we already have on the governor and the legislature.
Isn't that a proposal that's on
There
the
is
ballot?
a proposal. And I've heard that will be on the state ballot, and I welcome that, and I want people to know that I'll be voting to limit my own term. But whether that passes or not, I will not stay labor commissioner more than 8 years.
Well, actually, the governor's term limited now, 2 terms. All the state representatives and all the state senators are term limited to 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's had a revolutionary effect on our government.
It has.
And the only exception there would be like the lieutenant governor and these other statewide officers.
Or you have a state superintendent of public instruction that's been there for 20 years. And
that's a whole other show.
That is a whole other show. But I think we need to move beyond that. Right. My belief is that if I can't get done what I want to get done in 8 years, then you need to find someone else anyway. And if I do get done what I need to get done in 8 years, then it's time for me to move on and go back to the private sector and rejoin my law practice.
I assume the filing period's in June?
It is. It's the second week of June, the 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Any other announced candidates?
There are 2 other Republican candidates, and the Democrat incumbent who barely won in 2006 is running for re-election.
So it's not an open seat?
No, it's not an open seat, though I would point out that we lost it. Our only Republican labor commissioner, at least in recent history, Brenda Renault, lost in 2006 by a razor-thin margin. And remember that 2006 was a disastrous year for Republicans.
Right.
So the fact that she got 49.85% of the vote means that she was doing very well that year.
Well, and by all forecasts, 2010 should be a banner year for Republicans. I know in the U.S. House of Representatives and U.S. Senate, there are predictions that the Republicans may take over control again in 2010.
But I think it's crucial that we need to remember what happened in 1994. We were able to come on very strong. We took over the congressional delegation in Oklahoma, and we got majorities in the House and Senate on